Hey, so I tune Skin, I tune that brew. Listen, man, I need some photographs for the editing process, because people dig that type of stuff. He tunes me, Carl, no problem, brew. What I'll do is I'll get some for you. So I tune him a shot, brew. 350 million terabytes of photos later. I knew I was going to have a great interview because this guy had a sense of humor. Paul van der Waal, welcome to Surfing Stuff. It's an absolute privilege to have you on here today. Welcome. How's it going, my bro?
It's good, and especially being invited onto a thing like this. I'm kind of in awe of this whole thing. I'm a technophobe, but it's been lekker to connect. I love connecting with guys from my past.
No,
Yeah.
lekker.
I've always said you can run, but you can't hide. So let's go.
No, sure thing. Listen, Paul, I think before we get into this, okay, so from a respect point of view, to you is it's Paul van der Waal. But when I speak to people like the Renault brothers and anybody and everybody around the globe that knows Paul van der Waal, you come under a different name.
Surfers are not they're very insensitive to people with a physical handicap, and you will be named after that if you. And I was the only bald surfer in Umhlanga for some years, and a lovely fella by the name of Stephen Wells also used to be a kneeboarder.
Yeah.
He's now a longboarder. Yeah, he's taken a step down, and he called me the skinhead from day one. I don't know whether it was my behavior or just my hairstyle, and it stuck with me. And it's people don't. I mean, I know I'm Paul van der Waal, but Skin. My grandchildren call me Skin.
Okay, so do I have your permission to call you Skin in this?
I would prefer that. My mates call me Skin. If somebody calls me Paul, I know I'm in trouble with him.
Okay, I got you. Okay, I just needed to clear that up because, in this country, I don't live in South Africa anymore. Where I live in Scandinavia, nicknames are, you got to be so sensitive to everybody, all that nonsense. So, so Skin, let's rock and roll. Let's do this.
Yeah, no, let's do this. Let's do this.
Right.
For sure.
Okay, Skin, so I think where I want to go with this podcast with you is under 3 different headings, if I can say it like that. I'd like to introduce you to my subscribers and to my audience by talking about your early days. We'll look at that. That's I think you have a lot to bring to the table for us youngsters, and stuff that needs to be recorded, because no one's writing this stuff down. I don't think. Maybe someone is. Maybe, I don't know.
No, they're not. They're not. The photographers are doing most of the writing, and of course we're going to miss Zigzag. You know, Zigzag was a big part of it. I don't know. They got a new format now, and I haven't followed that up. But the photographers, Pat Flanagan was a great loss. Sure. Louis Wolf is on Facebook a dozen times a day, and we did a surf trip with him to the Maldives in 1994.
Okay.
Just a special guy, just stoked. No more, no less. Just full of it, you know.
No, okay. Yeah, so I think we definitely need to cover your early days and speak about all that stuff. Number 2, bit more of a prickly topic, the surf industry. I'd like to bring that up and just talk about that, because I had a wonderful interview with Anthony Brodovich from Surf Action a number of weeks ago.
Special guy, the mayor of Margate. He called me the mayor of Mhlanga. We used to have a lot of banter together, and I saw him again after a long break. I saw him at SA Masters Champs in St. Mike's in 2022.
Okay.
And he was there, and he wouldn't stop kissing me.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, Anthony. He is. Yes, like, you know, the South Coast surfing fraternity without that guy wouldn't quite be the same, eh?
Top bunch of boys. Yeah, and like the Rocks guys, we were kind of different from the townies.
Yeah.
And everybody respected that. But we were very, very tight in Mhlanga, and proud of it.
No, okay, man. You know, yeah. And then finally, Paul, so the first category, I want to look at the early days. I want to touch on the surf industry, number 2. And number 3, if time would allow, and if you're willing to talk about it, I'd like to bring up Wave Wizzards. I know before we came online, before we started the interview, we had a brief chat about it. I'd like to bring that up, the club surfing thing, and then the provincial surfing thing, because according to the rumors that I've heard about Skin in the early days, Skin was a very highly influential candidate, if I can use that word, in the whole surfing grander scheme of things in Natal. So you're a bit of a legend, as they say. So I'd like to talk about that too. But
sure.
Paul,
absolutely.
I almost called you Paul there. Skin, let's...
No, don't do that.
Okay, yes, Dad. Hey, Paul, Skin, you remind me of my old man. You and my old man are exactly the same. It's like quite weird, eh? Yeah, anyway.
But it's you kids who give us life, you know. Without my 2 boys, I wouldn't have had the life that I have, you know. And of course, they brought me back into surfing after a long break.
Okay.
When I discovered other things, some good, some bad. But they brought me back because both 2 good swimmers, they showed aptitude when they were 6, 7 years old, and the rest is, you know, it's a natural progression.
Yeah.
If you're a good swimmer, you get in the water, go in the sea.
Absolutely. Okay, talking about the sea, Skin, where and when did you start surfing? Tell us about that.
You know, we lived in Curry Road, near the Botanic Gardens in the council flats, and I was lucky to live next door to a bunch of real old-time South African people. My parents came from Holland, so they were kind of different. They were very wary. They weren't into the outdoors. But we had a lady next door, or a family next door called the Rileys. Mike Riley, I think he surfed with us also at kneeboarding champs at one stage.
Okay.
And then his brother was 4 years older than us, and their mom used to take us in a little Fiat Topolino with the top down and just pile all kinds of stuff into the little car with 7 or 8 kids, go to Country Club Beach, and they had, I can't remember who was the lifeguard in charge in those days. Gabby Buerta was probably there, but we had surfer planes, and those were my first waves, and I must have been about 10 or 11 years old when I caught my first waves on one of those rubber inflatable surfer planes.
Wow.
And then Sean, he bought himself a Finn Anderson marine ply surfboard. I'll never forget, they had a big metal bung at the top, and it had a aluminium skeg like this big, and it weighed a ton. And we managed to keep it at a block of flats called Bencorum down in Gillespie Street. And all the guys used to keep their boards in and around that area. And we surfed on that thing. And of course, there were a lot of guys. It was only wooden boards, and it was just before the foam boards.
Okay.
And then a few guys in the block of flats that we stayed in, they were buying these fiberglass boards. Also, I think they were like 9'6" long, also hollow with a bung. And I bought my first board from Jura Products in Soldiers Way. And the same guy, he was a Formula One driver, Gordon Henderson. And he brought in the first Manx beach buggies, which the fiberglass body you put on a Beetle chassis with the motor. And then we got the stoke from there. Sean always was our leader, the big brothers always are. Then we used to go surfing together. We used to keep our boards down there. And for about 2 years, we surfed a lot. And I remember a couple of guys that I surfed with, the Surf brothers, John and Tony Surf. John, I think we called Loopy. We used to surf on the South Beach side of the West Street Groin. That was our spot. And every now and again, we used to go to North Beach and paddle the boards there, because they weighed a ton. And we paddled the boards to North Beach, but we didn't want to surf in between the South Beach and North Beach, because those pylons from the old anti-sharks, there was like an enclosure there. And those pylons were still there, and there were no leases in those days. So those were the early days. And then my board got stolen.
Oh, fantastic.
My parents bought me the board. I remember the price because my mom owned like stink. I think my dad was earning like 100 Rand a day working for the corporation. And my mom paid 51 Rand for my first surfboard, brand new. I think I sent you a picture of me and 2 other guys standing with our boards.
Yes.
When I tapped you those photos. Yeah, and then of course, school finished. I couldn't afford a new board. I went to the army. I worked for the railways to finish, because if you joined the army, or you went to army, but if you joined the railways before you went into the army, you got a full pay while you were in the army.
Wow.
Came out of the army 1966, was just lost in the haze of alcohol and stupidity, but we still went to the beach and body surf mainly. And I think I discovered a picture of me. We used to share a Cressy sub flippers, those big long blue flippers.
Yeah.
And we used to share one. One did the job. And we used to go along the Patterson's groin, which was then replaced by the two piers as we see them today. New pier and then the other one. And we used to dive off there, or we used to swim out in the wash. And we had to go and ask the lifeguard, please, we want to go and surf out there, body surf out there with a handgun.
Okay.
And go out in the wash. But if you didn't ask if you could go out in the wash, you got in trouble and you got called in. And there were guys like Jack Wilson and Baron Stander. Baron Stander was a horrible little man. He used to bloody beat us around and swear at us and threaten us and all that kind of thing.
Wow.
And strangely enough, when Wave Wizzards started, he was my greatest supporter.
Really?
I loved that guy. Yeah, and then I left. I got transferred to. I was working for Goodyear after failing my exams at varsity because, like I said, there were other distractions there.
Sure.
And I worked for Goodyear, and then they transferred me to Freyhays.
Oh.
And, yeah, you pull a face. That's right. And then 4 years up there. But I got in the water. I started water skiing up there. Water ski. I couldn't afford a boat, of course.
Yeah, sure.
And I was different because I was the only Engelsman there. You know, I was this strange dude that come up, this beach boy. But my name, Van der Waal, and I was fluent in Afrikaans because my parents were Dutch, so it was easy for me. And then they transferred me to Bloemfontein. And I said to Sharon, you know what? This is going a bit too far. It was a big promotion. And I said to Sharon, we got to get back to the coast. So then I joined Dunlop Tires. And I worked for them for, I think, 4 or 5 months. I didn't enjoy that product. It was 50 years ago. Might be different today. I don't want to get sued for telling people that Dunlop was a shit tire. But it was there. I couldn't sell a Dunlop in all sincerity. I knew when I was talking to a trucker or a guy with earth-moving tires and say, listen, buy a Dunlop. In the back of my head, I was saying, geez, a Goodyear would be so much better than this application. And I left them. And then I drifted.
Yeah.
I got into the curio business.
Okay.
And I was like printing my own money. I had good agencies in leather goods and semi-precious stones, in T-shirts. We were one of the first people to sell destination T-shirts.
Wow. Okay.
And I had my own little business. It was great. I was a commission agent. And then in 1985, P.W. Botha declared the state of emergency. And suddenly tourism just stopped.
Oh, no.
But I'd been a NIPA officer for 4 years before 1985. I think I started in 1982 with the Mhlanga Lifesavers Club, again with my boys making me go there and get involved. I was in the water with them. And my business just collapsed within a few months. And Sharon said to me, you know, the only thing, because I wasn't the sharpest pencil in the box at school.
Okay.
And I never had any skills. I never had any qualifications. And the only thing I knew was the water. And then Mhlanga needed a surf shop. And a couple of the guys said, hey, come on, Skin, you know, open a surf shop. And it wasn't that easy.
Sure.
We had some tough times to start with. But we were very lucky in that there was a guy called Stephen Anderson. I don't know whether you remember Stephen Anderson.
Paul, I don't, but I've heard a lot about Stephen Anderson.
Yes, and what you heard is all true. But he was an all-time good guy. He had great respect amongst the locals. He was a good surfer. And then the Honeysett family, Cliff Honeysett, I think was a manager of one of the early Springbok teams, as they called them in those days.
Okay.
He managed a team, I think it was to Peru in 1968, and that was Max Wetland and from the Heerville, probably Robbie McWade, if I remember.
Okay.
Most of the guys. Anyway, he had two sons. Roche was and the younger one, and then Steve. And then Steve is still in charge of marine safety in the Belito Stockbrook area. Roche is like my second son. He's a horrible bugger. He also calls me Skin, and then he calls me other horrible names, which I can't even mention on the TV. It might just explode. But we're good mates, and that little gang of about 4 guys started Wave Wizzards.
Okay.
And my boy, and all I noticed when I was a nipper officer, these guys who were good in the water, they didn't like the regimentation of life saving and nippers. You know, you had to be there on a Sunday, and you trained between this time and that time. And in the mornings when you did nippers, the surf was going off.
Oh, boy.
So to get water boys back in the game was difficult. And and then I opened my shop, and because of my 2 boys, I bailed on the nipper side of things, and I joined Steve Anderson and Roche and Cliff and Steve Honeysett in getting the Wave Wizzards going.
Okay.
And Steve left soon after that. I think he left in 1987. He went and surfed the European tour, won the European tour, and he kind of never came back. He did well over there in getting into the industry and doing all these adventures. And then, of course, the boys that he left behind, not only the Honeysetts, but the Renos as well. And then you had the Reno brothers. Dave was the oldest, with Bobby and Patrick. And talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. They were central to and I don't think Dave even realizes that today. I think he's running, he and Patrick have the Bantam Surfing Academy in England now.
Yes.
But they've just got the stoke, and that's what it's all about. And it just rubbed off on me, and I got the stoke. But I was very lucky. My boys were at school with Greg Isley, with Carl Rue, with Vince King, with Glenn Pheasant. Oh, man, there are just so many. I just got to apologize for the names that I'm leaving out, you know. But
Skin,
that was the luck of it. We had a lot of luck, and Seth Hully as well.
Okay. You mentioned the name there. There's some great names in that lineage that you mentioned, but there was one name that stuck out for me immediately, was Glenn Pheasant. The last time I saw Glenn Pheasant was about 20 odd years ago, and it was in London, and he was working for an O'Neill surf shop in, I can't remember which part of London, but I remember meeting Glenn, and I was like, no ways, that's Glenn Pheasant, and and that was the last time I saw him. Yeah.
Now you bring that up, because I remember this guy who had the surf shop that he was working for phoned me. And you know, those days, phoning was an expensive game. If you phoned international, I remember a phone call, say, from here to the States for 3 minutes cost you 45 Rand.
Big bucks.
You know? And Glenn's boss phoned me, and he said, hey, listen, tell me about this guy. And, I mostly told the truth. I had to tell a few lies as well. But anything to help the boys, you know. Yeah, and he's doing well today too. He's married with 2 kids.
Okay, wow. Jeez. Listen, Skin, we're gonna cut into a short little break, and we'll be back in a moment, okay?
Yes,
see you
perfect.
now. Paul, I want to now speak to you about going. We're still in that first topic of the early days. When you were a lighty, who were the icons? Who were like? Look. I'm not from your era, but I would presume that like every now and again a magazine would land at the local news cafe, and you look at the magazine, I suppose, and then you go like, wow, this guy's in the North Shore. Who were the main actors in your day globally, and who were your influences locally in the surfing realm? Love to hear about that.
You know, when Sean got the stroke, the big brother, and he used to get Kevin Grant. I think the first and very thing off. Now, I'm sorry about that.
Hey, that's cool, man.
and it's Johnny Murrell. He wants to find out what the surf's like.
Oh, okay. She was.
Yeah, he knows I've got the best view. Anyway, we used to, Sean used to get the Surfer magazine, and those were early days. And the heroes in those days were the big wave riders.
Okay.
And guys like Greg Knoll, Ricky Grigg, Butch van Aertsdalen, and then they had a little comic strip in there called Murphy by Rick Griffin. And we were addicted to that magazine, and we used to, every Sunday night, we used to lie in front of, and the Rileys had a lovely big radiogram, as you call it. It was a radio with a record player inside of it.
Wow.
And we used to listen to LM radio, hits of the week on a Sunday night, and page through, and it was just the pictures, you know, and of course color pictures, magazines with color pictures was something else, because a lot of black and white. Okay. But that drove us in those early days. And then I met when we were in the States. You know, Mo got married in 2015. Okay. In the States, we went over for the wedding, and then he worked for a guy called Eric John, EJ, from Laguna Surf and Sport. Okay. And he took me to the surf and culture museum in San Clemente, and I met Paul Strach Jr. Wow. Going back to those days.
Paul, now can I just interject for one moment there? Skin. Yeah. Paul Strach, that was from Jeff Hackman's era, right?
Correct. Okay. Well, even before Jeff Hackman. Before Jeff Hackman. And Mickey Munoz, I met him as well. Wow. And Mo was selling a South African-made board rack, and he used to do if there was like a competition at Dahini Beach in Dana Point, and all the guys were there, and I met Mickey Munoz because Chaz said, "Look at that little guy there. He's on this board, but he looks like a jockey. He's a real small little dude." And Raf Seek.
Yes, Raphael.
I know Raf Seek. And he was such a good tour guide when we were there. And he said, "Hey, I know that guy, come." And he introduced me to, and of course, I was just in awe of this guy. And this chap was like taken aback that I'd come from South Africa, and I remembered him from the 60s, you know. No ways. It was the big wave riders in those days. Those photographs of Waimea Bay and Pipeline and Sunset, that drove us, you know. Okay.
And Paul, did you ever get over to the North Shore? Did you get to Oahu in your time?
I did. Mo went over to the States in 98. He through Gary Cherry. I don't know whether you remember Gary Cherry, Bobby Cherry.
No,
anyway, Gary Cherry had a friend over there, and he said, "You know, Mo should go and work for this guy." Mo was working for me at the time, And it was an opportunity, and Mo went over there and worked for this chap, and then he said, you have to come over here. You get free accommodation, you've got transport, and there's such a special going from LA to Hawaii. It's an 8-day special. And you've got to come. You just can't say no. And we did. And off we went. And a guy called Harry Bold, he was one of the early photographers.
Harry Bold from Island Style. He moved to New Zealand. Right. Yeah, Harry. Yes. Yeah, Hot Dog Harry. Yeah.
Well, we still connect. He's 85, and strangely enough, I bumped into his daughter in the game reserve a week ago, and she gave me the whole story. His daughter is 60 years old. I mean, Frankie Moses, it shakes me up. In any event, he said, Paul, he said, go to Hawaii in summer. He says, winter is crazy. It's big waves. It's crowded. All the guys from all over the world go there in winter. In summer, the South Shore works, and everybody is more friendly. The days are long, and it's warm. He said, make a plan. And he said, if you can, get to Kauai.
Okay.
So off we went. We were in LA, and then from there we did an 8 or 10-day excursion, and then we surfed Hawaii. I didn't do the North Shore because in the South, although we drove there, and I'll never forget on the Kami Highway, Kamehameha Highway. You come over the hill and you see that church with that big cross on the top.
Yeah.
And although it was flat, it was like a lake. It wasn't even lapping on the shore. It was like a lake. But from all the photographs from the magazines, from 20 years before, or 30 years before, that was prevalent in those pictures, Yeah. And you saw that church and your heart stopped. And I remember Mo saying, look at that. This is where it all happened. Anyway, we cruised up and down. We saw sunset. We saw the pipeline, but nothing was working. But we had great waves near the Ala Moana Bowl, a place called Kualos. And Mo had made a friend in Tavarua. EJ used to take his staff over to Tavarua once a year. Took Mo, so Mo got that experience as well as Tavarua. And then we went to Kauai. That was awesome. Kauai reminded me of old school South Coast.
Wow.
There were no high rises. There was all old mom and pop stores.
Yeah.
It was a great experience, and we had our greatest waves there. It was like a good 4, 5, 6 foot. Clean. It was amazing, and we met some amazing people. And I had quite emotional experiences there. In that we were out at a place called Poipu's, and in Kauai. And it was a big fella out there. He looked like he had this Ray Rena Avalera frown, And he was a tough-looking bugger, and I tried to avoid him. And anyway, I paddled into a wave. It was a good, solid 6-foot bugger, and this guy dropped in on me. And I thought, well, let me just fall off because I don't want to get involved with him. And anyway, I paddled back out, and I saw him. He came back, and he was paddling straight towards me, and I thought, oh my gosh, he's gonna give me a flatty. And he paddled up to me, he put his hand up, and he apologized profusely for dropping in on me. And I said, no, then he picked up my accent, and he started to question me. And there's a guy, a Hawaiian, who drops in on me, and he apologizes. That was number one.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we carried on surfing, and then I spoke to a guy who was a youngster, about 17, 18, and he also picked up my accent. I asked him about the tides, and straight away, they say, hey, where are you from? And they think you're from Australia. And the Hawaiians turn like Australians, man. Hey, Cobbo, what you doing here, mate? And I said, hey, mix me up. I'm from Africa, but I'm not from Australia. Get that in your head. That's an insult. You call me in Australia. And then they turned around, really, and suddenly they were your mate. Like it was incredible. And then this guy, he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm surfing there with my son. There's my son over there." And as I pointed Mo out, Mo caught a wave, and I just saw big rooster tails coming off
fantastic.
as he went in. It was a long wave, and then he fell out, and I never saw him again. When we were strapping the boards on the roof of the car, this guy, this youngster, came running by along the road. He was also going home. Mo was on the roadside, and he just ran past. He just gave him a high five like that, and he carried on running. Little things like that in Hawaii. That's why you've got to go to Hawaii. Indonesia and the Maldives and you name it, it is all very well and good. But as a surfer, you have to visit Hawaii once in your life. If you go there for a week or a month or a year, you've got to go and experience that. And we've made a few good friends in Hawaii. We still get in touch on, not so much email anymore, but on Facebook I speak to them every week.
Cool,
and they're special people. Yeah.
Paul, just to change the topic just very quickly. Sharon was on the phone to Cully Murrell's dad there just now.
Yes, to Johnny.
To Johnny. Now, Sharon doesn't need a phone because she could just speak loud enough that he could hear anyway.
I know her presence behind me. I know what's coming. Yeah. But you know what? But before I got any further, when we met, I don't know what she saw in me, and everybody still asks that, geez, you punched above your weight, their skin. But every time when we went to Vryheid, when we opened the surf shop, when we went to Zululand for a total change of life, she's followed me, she's encouraged me, and my success is, if it wasn't for her, I couldn't have achieved anything that I have done, without her. She's been with the boys, bringing up two boys, and then you bring in hooligans like Justin Paget and Greg Isley into your house, and Craig Minor and Calvin Herbst. I don't know whether any of these names mean anything to you, but hooligans, he tolerated it, but they were all scared of her. They definitely were. When she wagged her finger, they stopped the bullshit.
No, cool.
And it still works. I stop my bullshit when she waves the finger.
When the finger comes up. Hey, also being a married man, it is an absolute. When you find the lady that's the correct helpmeet, that's perfect for you, and that actually. Yeah. I look at my wife now of 10 years of marriage, and you're right, Paul. It's like if I didn't meet my wife Lanier, being a South Coaster from Margate, Port Shepstone zone.
Yeah,
but I would have been a drunk in the gutter. That's the route I was headed on.
Probably me too.
No, it was a problem, Paul. And I met her, and it's a gamble. It's a chance you take. But if I look back on 10, we got 3 kids, and I don't live in South Africa anymore. But Extem song.
It stabilizes you.
Absolutely.
It stabilizes your life, and it gives you some direction, because that now you're not only working for yourself, you're working for her as well.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think it's a lot to do with your ego. If you fail in front of a woman, it's not good for your ego. I think that's why I stopped surfing as well, because I was making a fool of myself out there in front of her. I thought, no, I better stop now.
Yeah. No. How long have you been married for now, Paul?
53 years.
Wow.
And we've been together 55 years.
What?
That's a lot.
53 years. So you've had your golden wedding anniversary.
Oh, that's all we are. We forget those dates anymore. We just carry on, And you look, through marriage, you have your ups and downs.
Sure.
But surfing is always brought it back together. And I tell these youngsters today too, even, a couple of them, they get divorced, or they get sick, or they have a breakdown in their business. Get in the water. you're on your own. It lets you collect yourself and get things together and refocus. There's a couple of guys that surfing has saved their lives, and their marriages, and with their kids. When I see them with their kids, and a big part of it too in Umhlanga was we had the peer group pressure. You had to go, you went down there, things were expected of you. Umhlanga was not an easy break to surf. Hard paddle, and then the little guys would come and give the big guys cheek. They didn't last if they didn't go out there and say, well, listen, if you haven't got the go to match a show, then you won't last here. And it was hard in those lighties,
No, sure. But maybe that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Just one last thing about the whole marriage thing. Paul, you're a wonderful example to a lot of us youngsters. So, I can't speak on behalf of anybody, but I'm sure anybody listening now that frequented your shop and knows you from yesteryear, like the Renos and all the names that you mentioned, they'd look at you and Sharon and they go like, hey, that's how marriage should be. And of course there's ups and downs, but Paul, what a wonderful example to all of us. Thank you. Yeah.
No, last year we were still up in Zululand, and we used to come down about once a month or once every 6 weeks. And then we used to, because I rented this flat out, and then we used to go and stay with Ryan in his house, because he's in Westbrook. He lives next door to Steve Kuhn.
Okay, I've heard a lot about Steve Kuhn, yeah.
Still the ultimate barrel master. And Mulgora, I don't know whether you remember him.
No, not so much.
There.
No. I heard you got.
There's a whole bunch of surfing characters down there.
One of the South Coasters that I spent quite a bit of time surfing with, Andrew Banks. You remember Banksy?
Well,
he's up there.
He lives right. Steve Kuhn has got a little like granny flat below his house.
Okay.
And he and I can't remember, was his wife's name
Penny? Yeah, Penny Lowe. Yeah.
And they stayed there for quite a while. Yeah.
Okay.
And they surfed together with the Alembi Surfing Association there, which is basically Zululand, which is moved further south. So it's based in the Salt Rock area. It's quite strong too.
Okay. Wow.
A lot of good surfers surf for them now.
Oh, lekker, man. Listen, Paul.
We see Andrew quite a lot at the trials and so on. You know?
Yes, I tell you what, when I watch Andrew, obviously I've got bias toward Andrew surfing because he's from my neck of the woods. But when I watch Banksy surf, there's something so clinical about his off the tops that amazes me. Great surfer.
Yes, and he's still got it. He's still got it. And he is the most humble, fun guy. It was all, whenever you see, and if I go to the beach, I go to the trials and he's there, they come over and they give me a big greeting and a big welcome, which makes me feel good.
Lekker, man. Lekker. Listen, Paul, we're going to cut into a quick break here and we'll connect again, okay?
Yeah.
Paul, I want to move on now and go into the second topic for this podcast, which I mentioned was the surf industry. And I want to ask, you've mentioned earlier on that you had a surf store called Aloha in Umhlanga Rocks. And so you gave us a very basic how it started and why it started. Let's fast forward all the years gone by. What made you pack it up? What happened? What happened?
Bottom line, health. And with old age, and I mean, I was 60 at the time, which is not really that old. I mean, I surfed way after that as well. But I think I was 59, and I had a serious colon cancer growth removed.
Okay.
And that was in August of 2004. I think 2004.
Okay.
And then after, I think my first surf, I'll never forget that day, was in November of 2004. And I went for my first surf. It was a beautiful day. It was like 3 foot, grassy, sunny, beautiful day. And I pedaled out at Mhlongo. I was the only guy out there. And then Ryan Butcher joined me.
Okay, yes.
And he said, hey, how's it? He said, I can't believe you're back in the water. You're okay? I said, oh, no, I'm fine. I'm 100. And he said, what are you going to do with your shop? And I said, that's kind of a loaded question. What do you mean? He said, look, he said, and he was straight up in my face. He said, you're getting old. You've had this cancer. He said, you've got to look at a few realities. I said, you know, Ron, I haven't even thought of that. I haven't even thought about that, really. He said, well, we've got a new brand, which was Hurricane.
Yeah.
He was very involved in life-saving. I think he got his Springbok colours for life-saving as well, doing Ironman and that. And he was making a lot of equipment for life-saving with the racing boards, the pedal boards, and then they were getting into equipment like leashes and covers and stuff like that. And surfboards as well. I think Barron was shaping for them.
Okay.
And then anyway, he said, listen, we've got this new brand, but we need a street frontage. And if ever you want to bail, we want to be the first to know.
Okay.
And we're rocks people as well, and we'll still involve you. And I said, okay, that's fine. And I forgot about it completely.
Okay.
And then December and January came up, and you know, December in those days, I mean, that's where you did 80% of your annual turnover was December and January.
Yeah, absolutely.
And 7 days a week and 12 hours a day. And at the end of the Christmas season, I said to Shane, you know, I feel so lame. I don't think I can do this anymore. But it weakened me, even going for a surf, half an hour in the water, and I was kind of done. And she says, what are you going to do? I said, you know what? I need to phone Ryan. He's keen, he's young, they're strong. Let me give him a buzz. And I phoned him the next day. 2-3 days after that, we'd made a deal.
Wow. Okay.
He made me an offer which I couldn't refuse. And he said, look, we'll employ you twice a week as well. We need you here. You're involved with the schools, with the club and all that kind of stuff. We need you there. So, and I said, let's do it. But it broke my heart because my office was a shrine to the 20 years that we had before, because all the wave Wizzards especially, and there were photographs, and there I had a notice board up there with all the press cuttings, and then I've still got those scrapbooks. I've got 4 full scrapbooks with all those cuttings. And gee, there's some funny stories in there. It's well worth a read. But because they kept me on, I could still be in it, but out of it, you know?
Okay.
So, and then after 6 months, I don't know what happened. I don't want to point any fingers, but kind of things changed. Their priorities maybe were different to mine.
Okay.
And they used to call me on an ad hoc basis, and I wasn't getting any calls anymore. And then I didn't work for 5 months.
Okay.
And believe me, retirement is not what it's cracked up to be. It wasn't lacquer at all, because you feel, you know, you're surplus to requirements. You know, you're not needed anymore. It's not a nice feeling. And then I worked in the estate agency next door. The lady next door saw me bundling around doing nothing, and she said, "Come and work for me." But I didn't enjoy that business at all. It was horrible.
Really? Okay.
And my worst thing of working with the estate agency was that I had to wear shoes and socks. I hadn't worn shoes and socks for 10 years. I've got to wear shoes and socks. Give me a break. Yeah. So I remember in the shop too, we just wore baggies all day, every day. But Shazzy came in on a Tuesday and a Friday. She did the books, she did a bit of merchandising and just make sure the dishes were washed and stuff like that. But we always had a grommet outside at the door keeping KB.
Okay.
And hey, here comes Shaz. And we got dressed, and when she arrived in the shop, we had our slops on and our shirts on, you know. Yeah, they were 20 years, the best years of our lives, really. The people, and it's still, we still get that, like when we go, like last year, I was just going to tell you on Mother's Day, we took a walk down on the beach in Floaty Beach. Like I said, the vibe is still there. The community, the surfing community is very strong. Guys are coming out the woodwork and wishing Shaz a happy Mother's Day. And I'm saying, who the hell are these guys? All with their grey beards and their bald heads. And they were the kids that we used to coach.
Wow.
Those days, now they all got their own kids who are 8 and 10 and 12 years old now, you know.
Unbelievable, eh?
And that's really made us feel good and made us realize if we come back to Mshlodi, we're coming home, because we had 17 very, very good years up in St. Lucia. I walked in there because what happened was Mo was working for Pindar.
Yeah.
And he was going to get married to this girlie 1 week into the bush, and I think she saw one shungalulu too much. I don't know which shungalulu she was looking at, but she ran away and left the house. Mo made a nice profit on one of the flats in Mshlonga, bought this little 3-bedroom place, so it was really, really nice. And Shaz said, you know what, Mo's place is standing empty. Let's go up there and I'm sure you'll get a job as a guide. Because when I wasn't getting work from Hurricane anymore, I phoned all the guys in Durban. I phoned 4 or 5 of them. And I said, look, you know, I'm on the street. I'm available. I'll come and work for you guys. But I could see why they didn't phone me back, because I was 60 at the time.
Yeah, sure.
But secondly, I used to push the townie come rock skies thing quite heavily, and I think I paid the price for that. They thought, no, we don't want that guy. He didn't like the townies. So anyway, it all worked out. But we moved into Mo's flat up there, and then I just didn't walk into a job. I had to write a blooming diploma. It took me a year to do the Field Guards Association certificate.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it was the first exam I've ever passed without a crib sheet on my lap. I was quite proud of myself. So then I got that, and then I was a freelance guide. I thought maybe I'll open my own business there, but with the red tape and the capital risk,
yeah,
I wasn't gonna do that. So I was freelance, and I worked for about 3 or 4 companies.
Okay.
And they called me when they had Dutch guests, because I'm fluent in Dutch, and it was. And then I could work when I wanted to. And then we used to come down to Durban every 3 or 4 weeks. And then in 2008, my grandson was born. You know, Ryan married a girlie with 2 kids.
Okay.
And then the little fellow was born, and of course we used to come down and we used to spend a lot of time with him.
Fantastic, man, fantastic.
And you know, you've heard about Gabby, that the 2 girls that the 2 kids that he adopted, more or less. Denham has just finished his chemical engineering degree at Stellenbosch.
Goodness me.
And Gabby became a South African junior girls champion. And then I think she won the Billabong series in her age group. And then she surfed for the South African junior team at Huntington Beach. And then she got into coaching as well.
Okay.
Long story short, she's now coaching at Kelly's Wave Ranch in Abu Dhabi.
Wow. What a story, man.
And India's 16 now, and he's just a character. He does everything. He does kickboxing. He's got a little dirt bike. He surfs. He's a man of the world. And he doesn't drink beer, believe it or not, because he says he doesn't want to be like his dad.
She was... Sure. Well, growing up on the South Coast, I think I made the wrong choices. Beer came along when I was I think I was 14, sadly. Yeah. But, anyway, gee whiz, eh? You know what I think I need to do at some point, somehow, is get your boys on here. That's for sure.
You know what? What you should do is get maybe 2 or 3 of them.
Yes.
Together.
Oh, gee whiz.
You know, that would be a riot, because you know that Ryan's age group and Mo's age group, they were super tight, and although a lot of them are live in different parts of the world, they speak to each other. I speak to them on a weekly basis on Facebook.
Yeah.
Ryan connects to them on WhatsApp. And if there's a wedding or there's a 50th birthday, or they come from all corners of the world and they get together again. And again, that's surfing for you.
Yeah,
and especially
absolutely.
that little beach of ours. Eddie Van Sale, you remember him?
You know, I've never met Eddie, but Patrick Renner or Ratty used to often speak about Eddie Van Zyl.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm.
Yes, he was. He was a big wave rider. He rode longboards. I think he got his Natal colors for longboarding.
Okay.
Then he ended up in California. He was making boards. And when we went over there, I think it was in 2019, Eddie had his 50th birthday, and there were 12 guys from Umhlanga Beach alone there, who were either living in that area or had come over from South Africa. It was incredible. But so many guys who are on that Southern California coast, Barry van der Meulen, Wade Sharp, Bill Sharp,
okay,
Greg Isley, Rafsik, Eddie. And you know what the best part is? They've been there for 20 years plus. Not one of them has an American accent. Not one.
Fantastic.
They've got their South African accent, and it's awesome.
Yes. Hey, you know, it's the worst for me personally is when I listened. I've got some Afrikaans friends that have ended up in America, and when and I say this with respect to the Afrikaans folk,
Yes.
but when an Afrikaans oak, a Dutchman, speaks American,
Don't do that. Rather gooi die taal, man. Gooi met 'n lekker ou Brakpanse accent. You know, you moet nie tak praat nie. And of course, that's the funny part. Mo's wife, she's picked up all the bad words. And I mean, I know that's going to go on a podcast, but she calls him a doers on a regular basis. You know, and she says ja and lekker, and just now she's fully South Africanized, you know, and she loves coming here. She loves it. Yeah. And of course she loves the wine as well. I mean, you make the best in the world.
You know, you sometimes like us guys being husbands. Hey, Paul, I'm sure Ryan, Mo, and all the blokes listening here that are married. You know, every now and again, actually not every now and again, more often than not, we can pull some doff maneuvers off, right? Whether it be in the kitchen or just wherever. And my wife's Norwegian, and she's also cottoned on to. She says to me, "You're acting like a deuce."
No. Oh, well, good for her. Good for her, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah, they pick up on all the slang, eh? They do, yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, well, it's like in any language, like when I was up in Zululand, I picked up a lot of Zulu, and being able to speak Zulu to those guys.
Yeah.
I worked with a lot of black guys as well, and of course, I picked up, obviously, the Zulu, the animal names,
Oh, yeah.
your basic greetings, but the bad words come very, very quickly, and they love it when you use the bad words. And it's like us, when our girls use that kind of language, and we laugh like hell, and they just love it. Yeah.
Hey, you speak of Zulu, Paul. Just before we cut into the next break here, I've got 3 kids. My eldest is my daughter Maud. She's 6, and sometimes she says to me, Dad, because she's been to South Africa once. So she said, Hey, Dad, I want to go back. I'd like to go back to South Africa. And then the topic of Zulu comes up every now and again. So now at home here, it's not like, Hey, Dad, can I have some milk? She tunes me straight. She tunes, Hey, Dad, I need some upi, see?
Oh, no, really?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, it's cool,
beautiful.
man. Yeah, it's lekker. Listen, Paul, we're going to cut into another break here. We'll connect soon now, okay?
Okay.
Paul, in Natal surfing, there's a lot of great names. Goodness me, I'm not even going to ring off any because there's just too many, and I'll leave a whole bunch out. In our conversation before coming online, you mentioned a character by the name of Harry Bamford. For the folks that don't know who Harry Bamford is, and his contribution to surfing, let's spend a couple minutes talking Harry Bamford and take it away, Skin.
Absolutely, and anybody who watches this will remember and just confirm the things that I would say about him. I became involved with Wave Wizzards soon after Wave Wizzards started with Steve Anderson and the Honey Sets. And the club scene was very, very competitive.
Yeah.
There was Quick Motion, who surfed Snake Park Beach and North Swell, which was basically North Beach, and then New Way Surf Club, which was more New Pier. And Harry Bamford was the chairman of New Way Surf Club at that stage. And my gosh, it was strong. And I think in 1987, they had SA camps. And in those days, amateur and professional was totally different. And if you were an amateur, if you surfed a professional contest and you won it and you kept the money, immediately you were a professional and you were not allowed to surf amateur contests anymore. So, yeah, it was very, very strict in those days. 1987, SA Champs was in Durban, and New Way Surf Club alone won all the divisions, going from boys to juniors to open, and I think Chris Knutson won that particular year. It was his 3rd title.
He's got about 800 titles now, or Nato, or
Knutson. He did the Masters champ. I think he's won World Masters 2 or 3 times, and he surfs like a teenager. And he's got this young redhead wife, which is 2 more kids, and he's an amazing guy. And people just shake their heads and ask how he does it. Pretty much like Spider Murphy. He doesn't age. He surfs like a teenager. But Harry Bamford was a disciplinarian, and as far as surfing was concerned. And then I was starting off with Wave Wizzards, and it was hard because the guys didn't realize. I could see that the potential that the club as a whole had with the peer group influence there. There was such a pecking order there. Like I said, the older guys would make sure that the young guys paddled out there. It doesn't matter what size the waves were. And Glenn Pheasant and Mo were these tiny little guys. It was like kind of cruel what they did to them. But they went, and it formed them for the future. But they didn't realize it at the time. And there were times when I said to Harry, maybe I could pass on my better guys to you. And he said, don't you do that. He said, that would be stupid. You carry on and you persevere with the club. I know you've got so many outside influences as well, but keep it together there. And then one or two guys did go to surf for Harry. They thought, well, the new way is way stronger. I'll do better with my surfing. And Patrick Renner was one of them. He joined Northwell for a while.
Okay.
But there were a lot of guys, and Bobby Reno and Dave Reno, guys like Steve Kuhn, and they said there's no ways. And I think they threatened guys like Glenn Pheasant and Ryan as well. They said, you're not going anywhere. You stay right here, or else we won't let you surf this beach. And I know Seth Hulley, I mean, he was a top boy, he was a natural, and he went to surf Durban, and he was never accepted as one of the boys in Mshlanga.
Wow. I didn't know that.
And to Harry Bamford, he kept it together. I mean, I was opposition, if you like. But and he and I became very, very good friends, and we did a couple of surf trips together. He was a very stabilizing influence in those days, and sadly he passed away very, very. Of course, cancer came along, and took him away from us, which was cruel, But I'm still in touch with his wife, his widow, with Beryl.
Okay.
And every now and again we speak to Dammy. And of course the stories come out like I'm telling you now,
Yes.
And then of course, and Baron Stander also used to say the same to me. You carry on with that. You're doing a good job, you guys. And he knew the honey sets, of course.
Okay.
And Cliffy also, he also passed on very early enough, before he was 60.
Shame.
He was hiking with Steve in the Transkei,
Okay.
and he had a heart attack. But he left a legacy, and his boys were very instrumental in carrying that forward, and not just running off to Durban and taking the easy way out. Okay. So a lot of them stayed with us, and I remember I had a combi in those days, and we used to encourage the kids, come on, we go and surf Natal trials. Ryan, on the other hand, he was such a good surfer, but he had the hooligan in him. And I remember when we used to go to trials at 5:30 in the morning, on a Saturday morning, we'd be going in, and I'd see him coming home in this Beetle, in this little turquoise Beetle, with about 7 or 8 guys coming back from the Rift or 330 in those clubs. And they were going home at that time of the morning.
Gee,
but, it all worked out. It all worked out. They're all good guys, all solid guys.
Yes.
I remember too, like I said, Baron, and then Bunny van der Meulen. Barry's dad he also said, where are you getting these guys from? But there were naturals there, like Carl Rubens, Greg Owsley, just natural surfers. They just did well. They came from Mshlanga into Durban and kicked ass, and they were like, wow. But you had to channel that energy. Nice. And in the end, all those guys that left, they all came back, and now the club just got... One of the guys, he was one of the dads of... They had honours boards up on the wall. And he said, why don't you start an honours board? Look how well you guys are doing. And we did. And for 20 years, we had this, and every time the guys made Natal or Springbok teams or won a championship, their names went up on the honours boards.
Fantastic.
And to this day, Rosh Hanishet, when the club fell apart, Rosh Hanishet has still got those honours boards in his bar, and his bar is just it's like a living museum with all the memorabilia and stuff.
Wow. And then Paul, you're speaking about guys from yesteryear, like Mr. Banford and that. Guys like Harry Bold and Max Wetland, did you got to know them pretty well? And who else from that era did you get to meet?
I did, and that Max, I think I can't remember. He got one of the agencies but he went to Canada. I think he was there for 10 years.
Okay.
And then his son Mark, he died.
I believe so. Yeah.
Tragically on the operating table from septicemia. I think he was having an appendectomy.
Shame.
And Mark Wetland was very much a part of the Wave Wizards as well.
Okay.
One of the townies that was accepted. Another one who was an honorary a townie who was an honorary Wave Wizards member was Tommy Lawson, because he's just one of these natural hooligans who aspired to what we had, So he helped us a lot when he was with Island Style and with Instinct. Okay. He got us sponsorships and prizes and all that. He helped us a lot.
I spoke to Tom on Messenger a couple of weeks ago. I said, "Hey Tom, I'd like to have you on surfing stuff on the podcast."
Oh, you've got to do Tommy.
And Tommy,
you've got to do Tommy. He's just a sweetheart. Don't tell him I said that.
And he said, "Carl, hey, no problem. Just let me know when." So yeah, we got Tommy coming up in the oncoming days, which I'm really looking forward to. Yeah. And Harry Bold. Harry Bold. Now, I remember him selling Island Style. I met Harry and Tommy when I worked for Ant Brodovich at Surf Action all those years ago.
Yes.
And I remember the last time I heard it, he moved to New Zealand. And then, Harry's early days, was he a competitive guy, surfing-wise?
I don't think, no, he wasn't competitive. But, so many of them were surfing in the days when surfing was not a competitive sport. In other words, it was just an informal pastime.
Okay.
I think it was only in the late 60s that it became recognized as such. I mean, even I think Paul Nordea, when he was at DHS, he influenced him. He said, "We've got to start school surfing as well." And the headmaster there, I think it was Des Thompson at that stage, and Paul Nordea was very influential in starting very, very strong to that. I mean, the school kids are the nursery for competitive surfing for our senior guys, and when they go onwards onto the tour, etc. But Harry Bold, I met Harry when Johnny first opened his shop in the La Lucia Mall.
Okay, yes, yeah.
And then Johnny sold his shop to Harry. Johnny went overseas to Australia. He didn't dig it. He was there for a year or two, I think. And then I got to know Harry very, very well.
Okay.
And then Harry opened another shop in the workshop in central Durban. And then he had the two shops called Surf City.
Oh, okay.
And then, and then Johnny came back, and I think running the two shops was quite a handful. Harry was doing very well in Surf City in the workshop, and he sold his shop back to Johnny, and Johnny called it Surf Fever.
Oh, okay.
But Harry when he sold the shop, he became the rep for Island Style. And Harry used to surf Durban during the week, but he said he couldn't handle the crowds. And he and I surfed a lot together in Mhlanga in the weekends. And he was a deep, philosophical, lovely guy. I remember, people used to ask him, say, "Hey Harry, when have you got any good waves lately?" And he says, "My friend, every wave I get is a good wave." Little things like that, you know. He was very deep and a great sense of humor. I loved surfing with Harry. Well, I used to paddle, you know, we used to be out there in a crappiest day, just the two of us, and I'd see a wave coming and I'd say, "Hey Harry, check this one coming, it's got my name on it." He said to me, "Is your name Harry?" That kind of stuff, you know. Oh, Miss Harry. But bumping into his daughter last week, she told me, you know, that Pauline is, she's not well. I mean, you know, they're deep into the coming 80s and it's just a fact of life. And he's frail, and I can't imagine Harry frail. He was always a skinny dude.
Yeah.
But frail, it's a tough one to accept.
Shame, man.
But also a big influence on my life as well, you know. Good. There's just so many. I could go on all day.
Yeah, you know, you could speak, you know, when you start throwing names around, you know, Harry Skin, when you throw names around with the Schlanger Rocks group, yes, you know, you got to be careful that you don't leave people out, you know, because they are such a tight-knit group bunch of people. Same as where I come from too, same thing, eh? Yeah.
Yeah, South Coast was very, very tight. And I remember when we used to go down to SA camps, the Rocks guys, the Zululand guys, the South Coast guys, and the East London, the East London guys, we kind of found each other. You know, they had the same kind of vibe, the country feeling kind of story. You know.
Yes, man. Yeah. Paul, I had one more question for you. I've got a whole bunch of them written down here. Skin, going back to your early days, and I think I'm going to close off with this one here. When you look at the whole surfing thing today, the whole competitive, I'm just trying to think how to articulate this. The WSL, the ISA, you look at where it's at, you look at surfing going to the Olympics.
Yes.
You look at all of that. Now, obviously, like anybody else, I have my opinions. I've got my opinions on all that stuff too. But from your early days, let's just say from the 60s, from that vantage point, did you ever think back then that surfing would become what it has today, for good or bad? You know, a lot of people can look at competitive surfing and saying, "Oh, the new competitive system in the WSL sucks completely," which I believe it does. And then other people say, "No, it's great. And look at we're in the Olympics, bro." I mean, what do you scheme? Did you ever foresee that coming, Harry? Or what's your thoughts?
You know, let's be honest. Money drives everything. I remember Nas Botha when he was playing for the Springboks, and then he left to go and play for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, rugby in those days was purely an amateur sport, and they said, "Sorry, mate, now you've become a professional. You can't play rugby for us anymore." I remember even as late as 1986, when I opened my shop, the All Blacks were offered money by Yellow Pages here and said, "Bring the All Blacks over," because we were banned from rugby. Remember, we couldn't play international sport anymore. Even the first 2 World Cups, we weren't allowed to play because of apartheid, etc. And Yellow Pages said, "Bring your boys over, we'll call them something else." And the whole All Blacks team came over here. And they called them the Cavaliers, the Yellow Pages Cavaliers. And they played for money. And they played the Springboks. And our guys got Springbok colours for playing against the Cavaliers. They still got their Springbok colours. Surfing has gone pretty much the same way. Amateur surfing and soul surfing and you know, geez, you can talk at length, but the people pressure, the popularity of the sport, if you want to improve, and I always said that from those early days, if you want to improve, you've got to try and be better than somebody. You know, go and be, and competitive surfing, especially while you were at school. If you don't surf competitively after that, and you've left school and you don't do the school thing anymore, you will surf better than the guy who's never surfed a contest before, because naturally you've got a better eye for a good wave.
Yeah, absolutely.
You'll position yourself in a better spot than the guy who doesn't surf. It just comes naturally. But once you've done that and you surf competitively and you've been in a team, you've made mates for life.
Yep.
And you've got respect for life. Even though guys who don't surf competitively anymore, from those days, they've still got that respect that they achieved when they were at school and winning schools competitions and so on. And it stays with you. And that's what surfing competition does do. Whether you go pro and go the whole way, I mean, money drives the world today. So rugby, look at those guys, the money that they're earning today. I mean, it's crazy. These just the rugby guys. They're not earning a fraction of what the soccer guys are earning.
Oh, goodness me.
But it's everything. You name it. And then this government, unfortunately, is, if you don't play soccer, I mean, our soccer guys are getting paid astronomical wages, and they crap. But because you've got three teams, you've got Sundowns, you've got Pirates, you've got Chiefs, they fill the stadiums. But let the smaller teams, you get 200 guys there. You know,
Orlando Pirates. Hey, it's Pirates.
I'm a pirate. I'm a buck. And you know Karl Lane and Gavin Lane.
No, I haven't had the privilege of meeting them yet.
Got their national colours for surfing juniors.
Okay.
Their dad, Gavin Lane, you mentioned that to any older black guy now remember Gavin Lane, because he was a hero at Orlando Pirates, number 5. They called him the stability unit. They still regard him as a hero. But I see Karl, I still see Devin, and we chat about the good old days and horrible little bastards that they were and still are.
Yes.
Oh, there's so many. There's so many.
Okay, Skin, one last question, just a yes or no. And I suppose this could open up a can of worms. Okay. Surfing, going to the Olympics, yes or no?
Yeah. But, you know, I like to see our flag up there. So if it's tiddlywinks or chess or freaking surfing, just go and compete, man. Go and do it. You know, the soul thing, as much as you can't live in the past, that's gone. And there's nothing, for me, there's nothing better than going surfing. I'd rather go and surf some shit waves with my mates than go and surf the best waves in the world on my own. So the soul surfing side of it is right there. That'll never leave any of us. Kelly Slater and all those top guys, there's nothing they would love more than to go and surf with 6 of them in a place where nobody's going to bother them, nobody's going to know them, they can live like rats on the beach. They would really like that. But at the same time, if you're that good, Kelly Slater he's a phenomenon. But if you're that good, let's do it. I mean, it drives the economy. It drives, if you're going to make money out of it. So I think if you think too deeply about it, then you're going to say, oh, no, I wish I was a soul surfer and let's live like Mickey Dora used to. You know, I mean, he was a total advocate of the soul surfing scene. But, you know, soul surfing, I don't know, surfing contest is a rite of passage for me in any surfer's life.
You speak of Mickey Dora. I got given his book for a birthday. It's in my bookshelf here somewhere.
Yes.
A very interesting read, Mickey Dora. Goodness me, I don't think I would have been his friend. He just seemed,
No, he was something else. Don't go away. I'll tell you what I'm reading. When you move, you discover all kinds of treasure. You know, digging up old boxes and kind of stuff.
no ways. The history of surf culture.
This was given to Mo in December 2003 by some people that he and Alan Wallace coached. Alan Wallace was
I remember
a
Alan
lifeguard
Wallace. Yeah, I remember
with
Alan.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Ryan started his DTP career with Alan Wallace working for Hurt and Carter.
Okay.
And in this book they've written to Al and Mo, thanks for a wonderful new experience. It's something that will stay with us and we'll treasure it. Love, and then they've got the names down there. That's 2003. And this book is by Drew Campion and Bruce Brown. Bruce
Brown?
It's brilliant. I'm reading it for the third time.
Okay.
And it's amazing. And they don't miss anything from beyond Duke to Kelly and right up to 2003. It was published in 2003. So the book is 21 years old now.
Wow, man. Wow.
Great book. Worth a read and read again.
No,
yeah. And it makes you realize what a special sport that we've been involved in, and I'm blessed. Somebody up there must like me. I must have done something good in a previous life. I don't know what.
Yeah, so, Paul, surfing has, for me, and I'm sure it's been for you, I used to surf South Prim Beach. That was my local beach. And St. Michael's, those two a lot. And through surfing, the families I met that used to come down on holidays, that even today, I'm still in contact via Facebook, WhatsApp, and yeah, surf. Yes. If it wasn't for the sport of surfing, I would never have met them, and the friendship would never have developed. So surfing is a very special thing, eh? Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, one other guy who I haven't mentioned at all, when I was in the curio business, my office was above Dion Bosman's shop.
Oh, Bossy, okay.
In Brickell Road. And I used to go down there for a cup of tea every now and again and talk shit with Dean Krobler and Tessa Moore, who JM married.
Yes.
Yeah, I used to go and hear a little bit of eye candy down there. And we used to talk cut. But when my business collapsed, Dion also was one of the first guys to say, I've seen you with the nippers down there. It's a no-brainer. Go. And now he's got a surf shop in Mshloki here.
Yeah.
And I see him often. I've sent you his little surf reports. He still has character. He's a horrible bastard.
When you next see Dion Bosman, please send him my regards, Skin. Please do.
Will.
Yeah,
I'll do that.
Yeah.
I'll do that. Yeah, we get out there and we insult each other every now and again. But, yeah. He's 60 some change. I think 66 now.
Wow, man. Wow.
Scary, eh?
Jesus. Listen, Paul, my battery's about to pump out of my phone here that I'm filming with you.
Well, mine too. I need a nap after this.
Yeah. Listen, it's been absolutely nothing short of wonderful connecting with you, Paul. All I can say is thank you for taking time out of your day. And I'm sure that your email, check your email address, check out WhatsApp, because Oaks are going to be messaging you, Paul, guaranteed, man. And
I've got one apology to make. It's all the guys that I've left out, because they're all a huge part of my life and put me where I am today. And with Sharon as well, she's supported me through all these hooligan days. I mean, she's the stuff that they used to get up there, and they used to gun for me, and they still do. If there's a 50th, and they say, hey, Skin, have a tequila.
Oh boy.
You
Oh,
know,
boy.
yeah, these are scary.
Yeah.
And they're in their 50s and 60s and they still do it.
Jeez.
No, bad.
Listen,
Bad
Paul,
news.
you're an absolute asset to South African surfing. So, yeah, we just want to say thank you very, very much for all that you've done. Obviously, for me, I'm from the South Coast, so this is more of a, you didn't do it for me directly, but
Yeah.
indirectly. Paul, thank you for everything that you've put into surfing and being the character you are. And, Patrick Renner was adamant. He said, he tuned me, Carl, you have to get hold of skin. And even Mike Mapson on Mags, he was tuning like, hey, Carl, you gotta get skin on there. If you, bro, you got to get him on. That's so I was like,
So you said that you saw that surfer profile that I wrote to him. I wrote
Yes.
about him. He's still a pain in the arse, in other words, but I love him to bits. Yeah.
yes, you made me laugh with that. Okay, listen, Skin, you have a fantastic day. I've got to shoot you. The battery's going to count down and it's going to be all over. See you later, Paul.
Thanks again for the opportunity. Bye-bye.
Back up. Ciao.
Cheers, bud.
I wonder what she thought when she looked at him, 9 months old and innocent. When her hand touched his, I thought of all those years between he and her. She had beautifully combed hair, saw the comb lying there, saw the comb lying there. She looked at me and said softly in Norwegian, yeah, she spoke in Norsk. I had to ask the assistant what she had said. She said to me, she's 100 years. As she touched his hand, I wondered if I'll see her there. She said to me, she's 100 years. As she touched his hand, I wondered if I'll see her there. When her hand touched his, saw two worlds juxtaposed, young and old, her suit and bold, wise and innocent, smooth and wrinkled. Next thing I thought, she's stepping out, he's stepping in. I wonder what she's thinking as she looked at him, as she looked at him. She got up and walked away, not sure if I'll see her again. Wonder if she put her faith in the all-sufficient payment of Calvary's cross. She said to me, she's 100 years. As she touched his hand, I wondered if I'll see her there. She said to me, she's 100 years. As she touched his hand, I wondered if I'll see her there. Tried to tell my wife just what went down, could hardly tell. I was choked up. So if the Lord tarries and my son lives 100 years, I wonder what he'll think when he touches the hand of an